All right, we are live from the Empowered Mom Studios, and today we are just going to address the elephant in the room here. Hands up if the moon has been driving you crazy, or eclipses, or Mercury retrograde, all of that. If you've been feeling some sort of energy in the air, or maybe you've been feeling kind of sick, throwing up, or feeling nauseous, headaches, or extreme fatigue, whatever it is, if you have pinpointed that it's not an illness, like you're not sick and you don't know what the heck is going on, let me just clear this up for you. We just had a Scorpio full moon, and we just came out of eclipse season. And for some of us, we tend to get sensitive to these energies. And once you become really conscious of the sensitivity that you have to the energies, you'll be able to move through it a lot faster. Okay. So, full disclosure here, I happen to be in the 1% of the population that's called a reflector in the human design area. Like, they basically have this category of people who we are literally tied to the moon. Okay, so my magic power is that I don't get to make any major decisions in my life until one full lunar cycle has passed. And in that time, I get different downloads and different insights, and I release things and I work with these cycles. Now, it kind of seems appropriate that this is something that I would end up doing. Leave it to the Scorpio to also be a reflector and into birth work, okay? But it serves me well, because what I really teach my clients is how to work with the flow of their bodies. And this goes against the common idea of, oh, you're at the end of your pregnancy, you need to speed things up, you need to do all of the things to get labor going. There's several different cycles. I'm just going to go over them very, very quickly. If you want to know more about my birth work and stuff, you can always go and get my course, Your Empowered Birth, or Your Empowered Birth Academy. So my book is Your Empowered Birth. I have a workshop that's it's just the overview of natural birth and how to get the birth you want without having to fight, beg, and compromise. And then Academy goes deeper into that. But in one of the modules of my workshop, I actually laid this out much deeper. Anyway, it goes like this. At the end of pregnancy, when something is about ready to birth, you start to look for signs. And sometimes those signs will yield some sort of hint that something's starting. So in the context of birth, I call this prodromal labor. And Michaela put me through this. And basically what it is it stops and starts, stops and starts. So in the context of a business, it would be like, maybe you get a little bit further into your business. It's like, oh, I got a client and then nothing. Or, oh, I got some interest and then nothing. Or, oh, I got a few sales and then nothing. And you're like, when is this going to take off? And you get impatient and frustrated. And in the context of birth, a lot of women end up trying to do all of the things to get things moving. So in the context of life, if you're trying to achieve some goal, you have a project that you want to birth, or maybe it's a new relationship, maybe it's a business, something in your life, and you have those like sort of like moving a little bit forward and then 2 steps back and then moving forward and 2 steps back, you're in prodromal labor. The universe loves to put us into prodromal labor. So I've noticed a pattern where you might end up releasing something partially, or you might start to see something working partially, or you're purging out old energies partially, but you know that there's a whole lot more to go into. And a friend recently was like, I couldn't possibly like cry as hard as I needed to cry, because like I could just feel there was a lot there. And I've been there. Okay. There's been moments where I felt so much deep down visceral rage and anguish, and I could not cry or scream hard enough. So, this isn't it. This is a little bit of a release, but this isn't it. And that's basically what prodromal labor is in the context. It's warming you up. Now, in this warm up stage of you're going a little bit further and then you're stepping back, and you're going a little bit further and stepping back, you can get really, really frustrated. Believe me, the universe loves to test. So you're in this frustration, and maybe it's really inconveniencing you as well that this is coming up now, because you were over here doing something else, and now you're dealing with this prodromal labor in a different area that you have to focus on. And by noticing that, it's like, oh, I was trying to do this, but now this is coming up. What do I focus on? Well, in the context of what I teach my clients is like, keep going on your path, and you need to make room for this prodromal labor because it might turn into something. You need to create the safe net, the space for it. So this goes back into my 5 pillars. I've talked about this before. You basically ask the question, what do I need to feel emotionally safe right now and to be able to deal with those fears as they come up, those worries, those insecurities, and move towards my vision? What education might I need to create into this safety net to be able to get the knowledge to be like, oh, this is what's going on. So full disclosure on this one, I'm not just pulling from the universe and being like, I'm imparting my wisdom. No, I'm still watching a lot of different accounts on astrology and lunar cycles and what's going on in other aspects of like following patterns is what I'm doing. So I'm following patterns, and I'm watching my friends, and I'm watching what's happening with their lives. And I'm seeing a lot of interconnected webs happening. Maybe they're on different paths or they're doing different things, but I'm seeing the patterns in how certain lunar cycles have brought more insights. It's brought people to the point where it's like, you know what? I was working on this thing, but now I'm going to pivot and I'm going to work on something else. Or they're like, I was really tired this week. And it's like, yes, I'm not surprised by that because I can feel those energies now. Like I told you, it's insane. Being a reflector and actually tapping into this has been incredible. And it's also like the kind of thing that sometimes I wonder people are going to be like, Carly, you're nuts. Except when you feel it, you're not crazy. Okay. You're just tapped in at a deeper level. You're not crazy. So if you're resonating with this, then just know I get it. You can talk to me. You can tell me what's going on. I could probably pass on some insights, some right education, or pass you on to somebody else who knows what's going on at a deeper level, who can guide you, because that goes into the whole thing of you need to have the right environment for that. So in order for you to be able to be in this prodromal labor stage, you need to create that safety in your environment. Maybe it's as simple as being like, I need to get a little bit more organized this week because I know that my energy is going to get sapped, or I know I'm going to be in my feelings, or I know I'm going to be like not feeling well. I'm going to have a headache, or I'm going to be like not like my stomach's going to be acting up. So I need to create that environment around me so it's not a disaster and I don't end up out of that and have a huge mess to clean up. In fact, I'm purging a lot of stuff out of my space. I'm getting really intentional with my way of organizing things because I know there's a lot of stuff that's going to be likely coming up and I don't know when. But putting that system in place allows me to be like, okay, I need to be in my feelings today. Okay, I need to clear something from my chest or whatever it is. And I can do that. I can feel safe to do that. I can be like, okay, I've got my environment. Facilitators. If you have people who have already been where you're at or understand at that level, they can guide you. So, I mean, I have friends that sometimes come to me now and they're like, hey, I'm dealing with this. And it seems like you've been doing a lot of reading into that. And it's like, yeah, because I'm now at the point, I used to do it to try to find support for myself because I'm like, what the heck is going on? Like, I have no idea. But now that I have that map, and now that I have it, like, not just but and being able to do that, I can be like, oh, yeah, I can see the signs in some of my friends. And I'm like, oh, I know, I kind of have an idea of where you might be headed. I don't know your exact path. And this resource might help you. Now, I can't say it will absolutely help. And at the same time, usually when I impart my intuitive wisdom, they come away with what they need. They take what resonates and then they leave whatever doesn't come in. And then sometimes months later, the thing that I told them before that didn't resonate suddenly makes sense. I mean, I have my own facilitators, my own friends that I have brought in, which leads to my right support. So if you have friends and family that are also really good facilitators, and you've got double the whammy in your support network. But if you've got like family and friends that at least can hold space for you, even if they don't get it completely, that still helps. As long as you don't have people in your space telling you that you're crazy for doing things the way that you intuitively need to do them, whether it's your business, your relationships, or just taking some self-care for yourself, whatever it is. If you're like, look, I know I said I was going to commit to this thing, and right now I'm just really in my feelings and I have to just let this move through me. And they actually be like, okay, I understand. Like, I don't quite get what you're saying. And I can kind of get that maybe this isn't the right time for you to do this, and that's okay. And I still love you and I support you and I'm here if you need me. I don't understand what you're going through, but I can at least acknowledge that. And I'm not going to make you bad and wrong or crazy. And I'm not going to put my own obligations onto you. I'm just going to let you be. That's the kind of support you need. So that's prodromal labor. You need to have that support. You need to have those facilitators who can be like, yeah, I know you're wondering when this is going to take off. I'm telling you, you are on the right track and you're just going to have to be a little bit more patient right now. It's not time. It's not ready yet. That's okay. But if you try to keep pushing, what's going to happen is you're going to try to do something that's not ready. And then you get into false labor, which is when you think you're in a really intense, strong labor pattern and that things are going to happen, but then you fail to progress and you've just exhausted yourself. As I said, metaphors for birth, they're everywhere. And metaphors for life with birth analogies, it's everywhere. And even some of my guy friends, like my brothers, they even get the birth analogy. So, I mean, I know I'm onto something here. And the fact is like with labor, it can either be riding the waves and moving through that sharp peak to the other side and letting it go, or it can be hell. I'm not even going to sugarcoat that. It can be hell. Because if you tense up the whole time and you're just trying to get through it and you're just going to just tense it out, but you are suffering, you're going to exhaust yourself, and your project or whatever you're working on, whatever the universe is about to bring to you, it's going to be painful and exhausting and might even stop. That's the other thing people don't always get about labor is like, if you're trying to push through because it's really hard and intense and you're bracing yourself for it and you are like tensing up, it's going to hurt more. And there might be a point where your body is too exhausted to keep going. And then it fizzles out. And then you think that there's something wrong with you. No, you just didn't make space for the new thing to arrive. And you were so rigid with it, so rigid with your timelines, or so rigid with your routine, what you're trying to do, and it has to go this way. And if it doesn't go this way, then it's wrong. And I have to fix it. And I have to keep putting it on this path. Maybe that's not it. Maybe that's not it. Maybe you need to rest more. Maybe you need to take a step back. Maybe you need to pivot. So with labor, again, you want to have that safety net. You have to be allowing yourself to pivot and to be okay if it doesn't happen on your timeline. To be okay with letting go and being like, even though this is hard right now, maybe there will be a breakthrough, or maybe this will just be another warm up and I'll have done a lot of work and I'll take a break and then I'll come back to it. Now let's talk about the point of no return, because this is the one that the moms all dread. And this is not fun. Okay. Did you know that when you are on the right track and close to getting what you want, everything hits the fan and falls apart? Before you reach your next level, everything falls apart. Your marriage falls apart. your like entire viewpoint of life falls apart. Everything you believed in up to that point, gone. Your house burns down, all of it. Like, it is just like, oh my gosh, I can't take any more. Just like in birth, when you get to that point, the most intense point, it's like, I don't want to do this anymore. Give me all the drugs. Get me out of here. That kind of level. When you're at that level of wanting to throw things across the room and it's like, give up because you just can't take another moment of it, guess what's on the other side? Now, again, you can run away from that. You can absolutely go and get all the drugs and anesthetize yourself and run away from it. And in the course of birth, there is no actually running away. The baby has to be born. So what happens is you end up getting a C-section and you have to deal with that trauma. But in the course of life, you're just on that other side. You're like, oh, I went to the transitional side, but I didn't want to go through it. And this is the same things, like if you've been going through those energies during these lunar cycles, and it has been incredibly exhausting and painful, and you have been trying to live your life in a way as if you weren't going through that, and you kept trying to push through, and you refuse to have that cry that you need to have, or you refuse to let yourself rest for the day when your body is aching and begging you to rest, or whatever it is that you need to do. If you need to purge something, you know what I'm talking about, solar plexus. I don't need to get into it. It's not fun, I know. But what happens if you hold that in? If you absolutely hold that in and refuse to let it go, how much more painful is that than if you actually allow your body to release what it needs to release? Well, guess what? With transitional times of the year, like our eclipses, like certain full moons, we have that moment where the universe is basically saying, hey, it's going to hit the fan. You're going to feel weird in your body. Something's going to happen. And you got to ride the wave. You just got to get into that rhythm and just do it. Just go through it. It's the shortest part. It really is. So in my case, I'm just like, okay, fine. I'm crying for 3 hours. Okay, then. What structures do I need to have in place with my 5 pillars to allow me the space to cry for those 3 hours? And I build that ahead of time. I actually pay attention now to what's happening in different cycles. I even started journaling a couple of years ago. I got back into journaling after years of not doing it. And I see those patterns too. And I'm like, oh, okay. So last year at this time, I was going up the spiral staircase and I was at this level. So now I'm going up the spiral staircase again to this level, and then it'll just keep going. So there's going to be certain themes that will come up, and it'll be at a higher level than before. Maybe not as painful as before either, but recognizing, oh, I've been here before, I can climb up to the next step. So you go through that because you got to go through transition. If you don't go through transition, you don't birth. You don't get the thing that you're supposed to be preparing yourself for. You stay stuck. You don't rise up to that next level. You stay stuck. Now, if you are meant to be up at that higher level, the universe can and will kick your ass. I'm going to be very, very clear about that. The reason why I am committed to all of my friends and family rising up to their next levels, and why I have this inspirational way of being about me, and I'm constantly tracking to see where people are at, is because I know from experience that when the universe says it's time to climb to that next level, it's time to move forward, it's time to get to that next thing that you've been putting off, it's time to go, and you say, no, I'm going to stay in my comfort zone and I'm just not going to do anything, the universe, in all its wisdom, will be like, oh yeah? You think so, hey? Okay then. House burned down. Now what are you going to do? Oh, okay. Well, there you go. See? I made you move. Now it's not so bad, is it? You can do it. Or it's like, I don't need to worry about relying on anybody else. I can be completely self-sufficient and I don't need to ask for help and support. And the universe is like, oh yeah? Well, now you're down at the beach all by yourself. And guess what? You just stepped on a wasp. And you're going to have to sit there all day knowing that there is no way that you can do this on your own. You need to try to at least reach out for some help. I know you think you can do everything yourself. And in this case, no. So again, you got to go to that next level. But you know what? Instead of having the universe kick your ass, that's what I'm here for. That's why if you're in connection with me, I am going to lovingly kick your ass and remind you again that you can reach those next levels. I gave you my 5-pillar system. You create that safety net and you go for it. You go through that transition. In the work that I do, when my clients start going through transition and they don't want to do it anymore, all I do is hold space. Literally, that's the job. And that's the job of my client's partner too, is to hold the space. Not put any of his little worries and fears on it and be like, oh my gosh, now it's really like, are you sure that she's okay? And I'm like, she's doing her process. All you have to do is step in when she's ready for you to do a hip squeeze or whatever. But if otherwise, if she's not wanting you to touch her, you don't touch her. You let her do her process. This is it. Intense, painful, frustrating. You go to the deepest, darkest levels of yourself when you're in transition. You're letting go of the old version of yourself and you're rebirthing anew. This is true with everything. Like sometimes, as much as my friends and family want to support me, I'm like, no, I'm in transition. I just need to be left alone to go through that. And after that, I'll be back. But there's points where you just need to go through your process. And it is okay for you to let your family and friends know, I'm really needing to just go through my process. If you set that boundary and you give yourself the space and allowance to go through that process, knowing it's going to be dark, knowing it's going to be frustrating, but also building a lifeline so that when it gets too dark and you're like, I need to know that I can get out of here, you know, it's like, oh, right, this rope comes back to the light. Okay, I can keep going. I can keep going into this. I can keep pushing to the other side until I get to that other piece of light or that treasure, that thing that I want most. So you got to go through it. Otherwise, you never get there. You stay stuck until the universe kicks you, and then you're dealing with the trauma of being kicked through that door. Because guess what? You're here to evolve, you're here to experience. And if you have a destiny, you're not going to get to avoid it. Like Spider-Man tried to avoid his destiny. What did the universe do? Killed Uncle Ben. Now Spider-Man's got his destiny. I mean, sucks. And that's the way it is. If you resist your destiny, eventually the hero does have to go on their journey. We all do. Okay? So, if you don't want your next level to be traumatic and difficult and hard to maintain, then you need to let things be. Don't push too hard. Don't try to get things going if it's not going right away. Let it rest. It'll all work out. It really will. And if the universe is putting you through it because of an eclipse, rest. I know it's not the way we were taught. We were taught to just push through with everything. And now our world is kind of changing. We're starting to recognize the beauty in rest. We're starting to reconnect to the natural rhythms. The earth has a cycle, we have a cycle, and we need to honor that. So I'm just going to say in closing, if you need to go and have a really good long cry or scream or howl or write out your feelings or purge something or change where you were focusing before, or maybe it's as simple as just getting a really good rest because your body is calling for it, do it. House cats kind of get that. They know that rest is important. And earlier on the weekend, you might have seen a picture of me curled up like a house cat. I literally did sleep 18 hours that weekend. Not all at once, but I did sleep 18 hours in that total time because that's what my body needed. And I've created that space. So you can do both. You can get stuff done and you can follow the rhythms of your body and whatever is going on in the planetary alignments. And you can allow that all to come in. It does not have to be so hard. And if you need any guidance on that, you know where to reach me. Okay? I love you. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.